first. Let's have 2 minutes, 2 minute shanti. I mean, if I had to say anything about really what raga music is about, it is about silence. Really, I mean it. And that is the real essence of what it is. All this color, all these sounds, they're coming from silence. And that is the fundamental, at least, the deeply philosophical basis of the music tradition is certainly that idea. So, 2 minute shanti, 2 minutes of silence. Thank you. So this point about silence, it really comes from, there's a very important philosophical concept about how the Indian tradition did sound, and the word for sound is nada. So I probably talked about this, and many people know this. Always good to repeat everything, and anytime I'm saying anything, please ask a question, and no problem. So there's really two types of sound: ahata and anahata. So ahata means something is being struck, something is being hit, some physical thing is happening. That sound, like all the sounds that we hear in the world, all the music, all the birds, all the everything, that thing buzzing there, it's all because there's some motion going on. And so, hello, please come. So that's the one type of sound, generally the type of sound that we understand. Ahata, nada. But there's another type of sound, and that is the unstruck sound, the sound that is not produced by that physical thing, but a sound that's simply vibrating of its own accord naturally, as the universe does, as like molecules and electrons fly around. That is the anahata nada that we're talking about. And really, the ahata nada, like this physical stuff that we're doing, is nothing but our way of like really connecting to that other space of silence. So that's why I was saying that. And although you don't hear this kind of stuff from Indian musicians generally, I would say in a very deep sense that is all inculcated into how we learn music from the beginning. So now with that beginning, my name is Srinivas. I think you guys know that. I learned sitar for 12 years, very intensely with my guru in the traditional way. I studied Sanskrit and Telugu here at Brown, and then at Berkeley, and now I teach at Brown. So that's my life. But maybe we can all just quickly introduce ourselves, and then we can all feel like we're together. Kirti?
Oh, my name is Kirti. I'm a mathematician. Also, sort of dabble in South Indian classical.
My name is Meg. My 9 to 5 I'm in sales, and then I also teach yoga. I've been to your show. It's great.
Thank you. Which one did you go to?
One here.
Oh, great. Wonderful.
My name is Barbara Cotier. I just love yoga. I have a meditation practice. And she needs music. So there I am.
My name is Crystal, and I own the studio. And I'm thrilled to have you.
Thanks, Crystal.
Do you want me to shut this door?
Maybe, yeah.
It's so loud, and they now stick the AC on.
Sure. Yeah. It's fine. It's really feeling like India, you know. Oh yeah, that makes a big difference.
I'm rhythm. I'm a student. I'm rhythm. I'm a student at Brown. And I found out about you through your class Love and War in India. I'm going to show it.
Oh, good.
And so I
But you found out about this through Love and War in India?
Yeah, I did some research.
About me?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I went to dance before, and so I was just like, okay, let's see what's going on.
Oh, great.
And I'm not that good at music. I'm just very into like fusion. So like any classical, like jazz or like world music.
I'm gonna tell you about this other
The
thing.
AST kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Because that's the thing that's happening. That is like the Indo fusion. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited.
We're doing this. You're on my mailing list, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the September 24th at AST 20. That's like the Indian music with jazz musicians doing fun stuff, and then you'll see my like electrified sitar and stuff. But yeah, it'll be fun. So you're a first year?
I'm soft.
You're sophomore. Okay. And you grew up in
Oh, I'm from India, so I'm from
Baroda. That's it.
I'm just here.
Yep. I lived in Emerald for 6 years. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm just here to study.
Undergrad.
Yeah.
Great. Very good.
Hi, I'm CJ. I'm at your this. That's why I know about this.
Yes. She's an amazing artist, actually. She's not telling you all that. She's our last artist in the Contemplative Studies series. Yeah. So we're starting with Kelly and CJ. Yeah. So great. We're all together. This is going to be a pretty open, free-flowing type of class. We have 35 minutes now. I didn't bring the sitar this time, which, I mean, I'm happy to do that. And we'll, like I said, even in the course of this class or what we had envisioned, you might not understand something one day, you might not come some other day. It's just, you're going to have to just kind of like go with it. And again, like I'm saying, this is like the modality of like how I learn. This is like the way, you just have to like go and get it and like figure it out too. And that's part of actually the joy of it. Because there's an element of your own self-discovery that you really have to do. And if you had to, as much as we have so much, influence of your teacher and, you have to like play this way or that way, at the end of the day, every guru, every teacher will say, you learned what you learned, you do have to do your own thing now. You have to say it your way, It's like Sinatra, it has to be my way, and it does. Raga music's all about that personal expression. Like, this is my version of this raga on this particular day, on this particular occasion. So it's like that. It's like the whole idea of raga, of these ideas I'm saying. It is something tangible that you can recognize and feel, but yet it's also like very open to interpretation and variable at the same time. And you kind of have to be able to be okay with both of those things. One thing that becomes very fixed, and it's a certain kind of fixity of that what's your name?
Liz.
Oh my God, Liz, right? Yes. Oh my gosh, there's a new person here with you. You went to India and you came back with a life inside of you. Nice to see you too. So what was I saying?
Fixity.
Yeah, the fixity. One thing that does become fixed, and I think also having a certain type of fixity allows for a lot of freedom to happen. I always say, like, for example, you have coloring books. Okay, so you have lines there so people know, but everybody's going to fill it in their own way. So you can be clear, you can be sure that like if everyone's doing the same thing, you're going to have some version of like Mickey Mouse happen, right? You might have different colors or this and that, but it's going to be same thing with Rag. You're going to know it's Rag Yaman, but it's going to be totally different depending on who it is and what the context is. So those lines of that shape is a certain kind of fixity. Same thing, there's certain fixities in Rag that we'll talk about, but even before fixity of Rag, there's fixity of something else that is absolutely fundamental to Indian music and absolutely distinguishes it from Western music, and that is this instrument, the tanpura, and the whole idea of a fixed pitch throughout the performance. So And this is also a very interesting but difficult concept to try to explain, but I'll just try to explain. Like in Western music, if you studied or you hear, we have different keys, it's like C major, G minor, all the, that's how we have different scales. In Indian music, we don't have that. But we have minor, major, and 100 other different types of scales. But we don't have this C, A, B, D stuff. All we have is what we call sa re ga ma pa da ni sa, which is very similar to something else in Western music, which you all know, which is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, right? You've heard of do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Now, do is not saying I'm G. It's not saying I'm A, B, or C, or any note. It's just saying I'm do, wherever I am. And then re, the second note, which interestingly is the same as the second note in Indian music, re gets its value, right? Gets its value not through its individual like stance or position as being some fixed thing as re, but it gets its value through its relationship to do. This is what they call relative pitch, not fixed pitch. So Indian music works on a relative pitch system. So for example, like this technically is tuned to what we would say D in Western music. I could very well tune this to E, and it would be, we could have the same conversation that we're gonna have. So D, E, F, G doesn't matter, but fixing that for, at least whatever the context is absolutely fundamental to Indian music. Does that kind of make sense? Okay, if it doesn't totally make sense, that's good because it's actually a little bit of a complex thing. And I've always had a difficult time trying to explain it too, because it's tough to really, fundamentally what I'm saying is it's a totally different approach to like sound and frequency. So one reason why that developed was because Western music is highly, at least in its like, classical symphonic form, orchestral music, let's say, you had many, many musicians together, and you had to have them all be in tune together. And many times the musicians come from one city and another city, and they would get together and have an orchestra and do that. So when they're at home, they need to have a fixed pitch. Like if he says D, then I know what D is, and that guy over there knows what D is. And when we get together, we're going to have a good time because we're all going to be in tune with D. Indian musician, he doesn't care about that guy because he just does his thing, or she just does her thing. What I'm trying to say is we're not really group musicians. We're basically individual musicians, right? So even if there's a singer, there might be a violin giving some support. There might be a drummer giving support, some tanpura giving support, but that vocalist is the main artist. That's the main thing. That's the main sound that's coming out. That's what we're there for. You're never going to find 60 people singing Rag Yaman together. It's not going to happen. Well, they do have things like that they do now, but in terms of how the tradition is, it's not how it works. So basically, you have this individual kind of art form and expression of this thing. So the tanpura is the instrument that creates that foundation. Now that, in the way I explain the tanpura for Indian music, is just like how a painter deals with their life. A painter can have all sorts of colors, right? They have their palette. Wonderful. Just like we have sa re ga ma pa da ni sa, all sorts of wonderful notes at our disposal. But if the painter does not have a canvas, they're going to have a problem. You need a place to put your paint. Same thing in Indian music. All these sa re ga ma pa da different notes, they need a place to go. And this is the canvas. This is the canvas for the notes. This is what gives all of their notes their meaning because of their relative value to this. Does that make sense? Okay, don't worry. It's gonna keep exactly. You got it. So basically what I'm saying is, in any given Indian music performance, or classical, whether it's north or south, doesn't matter. Fundamentally, you have to have some instrument or some machinery, like we use sometimes like an app now, that produces a constant fixed pitch, which can then allow you to tune and develop your whole thing. It is the canvas upon which the music is built. Okay, so back to the if you have to learn a few important things. The interesting thing is there's actually quite a bit of similarity between Western and Eastern music. which is why we can do these Indo-jazz fusion-y things, because there is a deep connection between Indian music and Western music, fundamentally. The fundamental connection that they have, which is not that fixed pitch thing, that's very different. But the fundamental connection they have, which is really even more important, is that they basically divide the octave in a fairly similar way. For example, when we think of like a full scale in Western music, we think do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. It's the exact same thing in Indian music. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni. Those are the names in Indian music. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti is in Western music. Now, there's certain differences, and we can talk about that. But on a general level, the fundamental breakup of the octave scale in Western music and Indian music is fairly similar. So there is a good amount of like combination connection that you can make between those things. So just to remember, sapta swaras, that's what we call them, the 7 notes. So there's 7 notes. Same thing in Western music, it's basically 7 notes. That's the thing I'm trying to say. So these sapta swaras, they are sa, that is the most important, that's do, right? It's like, this is sa. That's just plain sa. So sa is really an important, the foundational note. So sa is the first note, re is the next note, which is actually the same as do re, which is quite interesting. Ga is the 3rd note, ma is the 4th note, pa is the 5th note. I can write these things down, or it's not a big deal. Da, dh, is the 6th note, and ni is the 7th note. So these are the saptaswaras of Indian music, and really, I'm saying, fundamentally are very akin to do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Now, what we do with those 7 notes is what really makes things quite different, and that's really the fundamental difference. And also, different forms of those sa, re, ga, mas and do, re, mis that we don't find in Western music as much. At least scalar patterns also distinguish some of the Indian patterns. Okay, so any questions so far? No? Okay, so let us see. Okay, so let's all try to sing sa. That's probably a good thing. Okay, I'll just play this. Some of the higher voices, you can go for the higher sa. Yeah, that's good for you. But I'm a little lower. So let's try to just sing a major scale, what we would say a major scale. This is what we call the Shuddha scale, or the pure scale in Hindustani music, which is exactly like the major scale. So let's all try to just sing that, but with the Indian notes. So I'll do it once, and then you guys can try to read it. So, sa, ni, da, pa, ma, ga, re, sa. Again. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa, ni, da, pa, ma, ga, re, sa. Very good. You guys are excellent. Very good. Very in tune. Wonderful. Okay, so that's basic scale. But this is not a raga yet. Huh? Yes, exactly. Exactly. So what is a raga? This is the foundational main principle thing of Indian music. If you had to say what Indian music is, raga music. Definition of raga. Ranjayati iti raga. Means that raga is, and it's very beautiful, it's the causative form of the word, to color. So it's something that causes coloration to happen. Beautiful. Something that causes, in fact, raga itself means nothing but color, red actually, like that bright color. So raga is something that causes coloration. And what is the thing being colored? Your consciousness. And so all the different ragas have all their different colors and potentialities because, and we'll get into this maybe in some other classes, because the overriding aesthetic principle of all Indian music and all Indian art, whatever it is rasa, which is flavor. So here you have color, you have flavor, we have sound. You can see that all art in India is basically the sensory kind of thing that happens. It's very powerful and important. And we'll talk more about ras in a different class or something. But basically, ragas are something that color the mind. And basically, it means that it has to have some kind of emotional impact on you. And to relate it back to this anahata nada that we were talking at the beginning, the ultimate goal of Indian music and Indian art generally is through rasa, right? So this raga, you play this raga, it creates this rasa, you're experiencing this rasa. Let's say you're experiencing this feeling of joy or romantic feeling or something. This increases and intensifies as the rag builds and as the experience of the art happens. And finally, you get so into that you will now transcend to a place of shanti. That was the rasa. So basically, art, through excitement, through coloration, actually leads you to peace. That's the thing. Some people have, liken this to like cathartic experiences, but I wouldn't get too much in that. But there is a certain amount about rasa that is cathartic. But again, we'll talk about that in a different class. So let's now, at least, with 20 minutes left, let's look at this one major raga. Yaman is a very important foundational raga. Now, we could go on singing how the scale works, and I'll explain some of those things. But better, and this is really how the tradition goes, and then we'll do some listening after, so you can kind of get it in your system, is really by phrase-based singing. Okay, so I'll sing a phrase, and you guys just try to feel what that is doing, or maybe it's just a note. We'll just do a short introduction just by call and response, like we did the scale, but just try to hear the phrase. So let's say we're back to everything's quiet. The contour comes in. Let's put this back on. So that was just sa, ni, and then sa. But it sounds so nice, especially ni. In this raga is a very important note. Why is ni important? Ni is what we call in Western music major 7. It's the note that's right below sa, right? So ni, or in Western music, they call a leading tone. Ni it's absolutely the closest thing you can get to sa. And what ni represents as a note, it is longing, what we call viraha in Sanskrit. It is crying. What? To go home to sa. So when you are at ni, you have to feel that cry for sa. So feel what ni is. So first get to sa. Sa. Now really feel ni against the sa. Exactly. So now in this rag, we don't, again, I'll get into how notes move and up and down, but in this rag, you don't sing ni sa re. You sing ni re. You skip sa. So if we're back at sa, Srinivas, Srinivas. Very good phrase. Srinivas. Then let's try a little. Srinivas. Coming down now. Sorry, is that a hard one? Coming down. What I'm saying is, don't even worry about this da and ni and everything. Just hear the phrases. Like, just don't even worry about it. But it helps when you start doing this, then you'll start to understand how it's moving. So let's go back to Sa. Very good. You guys are excellent. So that's sunny this. Okay, now we're going to bust the most important critical phrase of this song. Okay? We're building up to this main moment. We're going to open up this important note in this song. That is Ga, the main note, right? So it's Ga. You know, that Ga has to be like, beautiful Ga, Ga, feel Ga, Ga, Ga re sani, re ga, yeah, re ga re ma ga. You guys are so good. That's it. If you sang this at a concert, everyone would say, "Oh wow, Rag Yaman, wonderful. I like it. It's gonna happen." So this is how the rag starts moving. You're getting a flavor of it, right? So let's now listen to some classic recordings. Like I sent one in the thing. Did you listen to that? Yes, that's Lata Mangeshkar. She's, they call her the Nightingale of India. She had more #1 hits than I think anyone in the world.
See, that's where I get stumped on that. The women singing, this is helping understand that. Because sometimes I listen to those and it's like,
yeah.
I mean, to a Western ear, it sounds so high and it's snaking all over the place.
Yeah. So again, the reason I sent that one out also because we often think this is what we call, at least today has been deemed, and of course this was a classification given by colonial people, Britishers basically. The reason why we call this Indian classical music. What we're singing now, all this raga stuff, they called classical music, right? And there's other forms of Indian music that are light, folk, whatever. What's interesting, and one big genre of Indian music you probably know about, is filmy music, all the music that's in films. Every movie we make is a musical. Well, not all, but most. And they always have songs. And those are really the hit songs of India. We don't have like big bands, like it's the film music. And those early film score writers and composers were very classically trained. And many of those singers, like Lata Mangeshkar, she sings classical rags. So these are really hardcore people. So people sometimes, film music. No, film music can be amazing music, and there's amazing artists that sing film music. So let's listen to that film song. Well, let me get that thing. And now you can try to hear some of those phrases that we were kind of doing, and hopefully you'll be able to hear it.
तुम्हीं कहोगे ये, तुम्हीं कहोगे ये अंदाज़े गुफ्तगू क्या है।
She's singing that ga. I mean, it's a big note in Song. You'll hear it a lot. Talk about fusion. The fusion that they did after the 60s, all these Western instruments, you can't do it. I can send you guys. We can listen to more of these. Okay, just a little bit of that flavor. Now I'm going to play. I want to show you one. I remember, and I learned this composition. I mean, I'm not a singer too, so please forgive my singing, but it really, the voice is the heart of Indian music. The instrumental stuff like sitar and all, they came all later. I mean, voice is it. Voice dominates. Even when I learned, I had to sing everything. I mean, I'm not a singer, but we have to learn it. This is the way it is. Now, and I remember this vocalist, he came, he's my friend's teacher, and he taught me this composition. So you can hear it, and then we can try to sing at least that one main line from this thing. Yes?
So you said that she's singing about God, or like that's a huge part. So I'm wondering, is there like a theme attached to that, or is it just the color? Like,
what she's saying?
Yeah.
Oh man, no, this is actually a Galib, sher. It's like just too much, like very scary, like stuff that he's saying in there, like not scary, like intense, like my clothes have blood on them, and like all this stuff. She's saying it's very romantic actually, and it's very passionate. But no, the lyrics of these type of songs, Tomi songs and all that stuff, that's not related to what I was saying about, like these spiritual kind of origins. No. Yeah. So there's plenty of very, like what you could say, what we say, laukika, like worldly things, like regular old things that are expressed in all these things. So, yeah. Any other question? All right, so let's listen to this one, and then we can try to sing it. This is composition by a very nice artist, Vikash Kashelkar. No, it's his. He's actually the older brother.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. But he didn't become as famous as Ulhasji is amazing. Check this out. The main line is Milana Kojia. Milana Kojia. So let's just try to learn that line. And then, after you hear it once, and then you can hear how she uses that line and how that line becomes like the way that you improvise and explore the rag. So just check it out.
सखी मोहे कलना
Back to that. So that is what we call the bandish. Bandish means it comes from like bund, like like the time thing. Yeah, bind up. Bund actually is cognate with bind. So in this case, it means you fix something. Like the thing is, it's like not improvised. Like you heard her repeat that line many times, same line. So let's try to sing that first main line of the bandish. It's called the mukra. It's the face. It's the face of the bandish because you always put, and it's just like in jazz music, we always say back to the head. That means so it's very similar because these are all why these things I think happened in parallel, or like there are parallels that you can find. The root is because both are fundamentally improvisational traditions. That's why you need things like a head or like a bandish, because you need something fixed that you can then use to launch all your improvisation. So let me put this way. So let's sing Sa again. Good. None of you did it because there's no tantra, right? So you wouldn't know what Sa means. Exactly. Very good. So what are these notes? You can try. What note was that? Yes. So it's starting at me. Very good. Me. Me starts at me. That's it. So with that one little line, she was like, doing this, making some variations. All sorts of things happen. So again, let's try that. One. Now we haven't talked about rhythm yet at all. That's another part. So today we started raga discussion. We will get to a little bit of tala. That's the rhythmic part. Because raga and tala, it's like, peanut butter and jelly. You have to go together, It's like, so this is falling under tala. You were counting, right? So this has a bandish has a meter, a fixity of rhythm, of everything. But you got a little sense of this Yaman rag, right? Okay, we have a few more minutes. Any questions? Yes. What, like when you're listening? So like in this recording, right, you could kind of sense, well, even in the recording, she'll have a tantra. So you have to be able to pick out, okay, this is her sa, this is where she's, going back to. It is a little tricky, I know, at the beginning, but you can do it. You absolutely can do it. And it's like anything. You just do it, and then you get used to it. And like, this is what I'll say about ragas. I mean, like rag identification. That's like what all the hardcores do. Like when you're at a concert, you're at a big festival, right? All the hardcores are just sitting there, and like they're even hearing the sitar player tune or something. Like I know what rag is. I know it. And then like within 1 or 2 phrases. Oh, that's. But usually a good artist, within 1-2 phrases, you know the raga right away. But that is someone who studied raga. That means they know the raga. And what that means is not, I'm saying like some conceptual thing like, oh, he's playing me and this note, so I know it's that note. No artist, even musical, you can just hear it and you feel it. Why? It's like, okay, well, Rhythm, I just met you, but I met you. I know you. If you walked into a room, I wouldn't think your name was Melody, right? Even if you were wearing Western clothes one day or you didn't have your glasses, I would never call you something. I mean, I know you're Melody, you're just a little, wearing this or that, same thing. Yaman is Yaman. Anybody will know it from first sight. It has to be like that. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Yeah. So, great. So please ask any questions, or if you want something else, or I've actually never done this either, so it's all very new and interesting.
You guys think of the simple way that we think about yoga, like there's so many different variations on yoga, but it's very similar, right? Like always knows vinyasa, but everything is
So you've nailed it. What I'm saying is true of how Indian knowledge works. That's the Indian modality, because you do have traditions. You do have what we call sampradayas, lineages, whatever, gharanas, what we call them in North Indian schools of music. All of that is there. But really, it's your individual teacher. And if I had to make a comment about what I see in the world, and I find sometimes there are issues is like when we learn music, you don't go to this teacher for a week and then that class for a week and then do a retreat here with some other. This is confusion, absolute confusion, really, and I mean that. And I'm not saying I'm not criticizing what's happening in the modern world, but this is what creates confusion. This teacher said that teacher said this. What is going on? I don't know. So the recommendation in the Indian tradition is learn from one person properly for a while. Then you will have a foundation to go and say, okay, that guy is doing this guy is doing this, I like that, I don't like this. You have a basis. This is what we would recommend. So when I learned, absolutely. Also, it's why would you? It's like a betrayal in the Indian system. You really should not go to somebody else. It's such an intimate bond, the guru and the shishya. It's so intense. It's deeper than a familial bond, I will say sometimes. It's very, very intense. Yeah, I don't know. I was getting into all that, but you're right that this sounds like yoga, or this sounds like all Indian traditions. I say basically function in this way, and it really all comes down to you have to learn from one person and get that. Okay, I know there's another class, so that's why I'm making sure not to. Right? Oh, Liz, it's your class. Oh, okay.
I played the recorder.
Hey, that's great.
I was like, this is to be so great to my brain, and there's some parallels.
Yeah, thank you. Wonderful. Okay, thank you all very much. Pleasure. Thank you. Yes, 2 weeks. All right, are you sure you want to end your stream? Yes. I don't know if